All right, everybody, good afternoon. What is going on? We've got Seattle Seahawks training camp. It is underway. I've seen some of the clips on Twitter. I've seen some of the updates from the beat reporters there. So we do have Seattle Seahawks training camp underway. Probably make a video tomorrow morning talking about some of the things that we hear, some of the things that we see, and just try to get a feel for what we might be able to learn. But before we get there, we do actually have some pretty significant news as it pertains to the roster, as it pertains to the makeup of the team, not really having anything to do with training camp today. So, want to go ahead and pass along a few things in this video, but we're going to lead with the big one. This is definitely the one that, as a Seahawks fan, I'm really interested to see, and I think that most of you guys should be interested on as well, because this has the possibility of drastically changing the Seattle Seahawks ceiling. So Connor Williams has passed his physical with the Seahawks, and he has begun negotiations with Seattle on a contract. Now, he's going to be talking with other teams as well, so there is going to be a little bit of a bidding war potentially. No deal is considered imminent per Adam Schefter here, and he might even leave town without a contract and then go see what other teams are willing to do, and it's very possible he ends up being looked at by a team that is able to bid more than the Seahawks because we don't have a lot of salary cap space, so I'm not trying to get anybody too excited here, but this is at least a possibility still. This is still something that is on the table. So Connor Williams might be the guy to bring this offense together. And if you want to see my full thoughts on Connor Williams, go watch the video I made about him a couple days ago when we first were supposedly going to pull him in. But the meeting went well, and we're looking at signing him. Corbin Smith also points out that he tore his ACL in mid-December, so he has healed up pretty quickly. Now, it's entirely possible he passed his physical but isn't yet ready to play at full speed. That's at least a possibility here, but if we got Connor Williams one way or the other, I don't think we'd expect to have him the whole season. He'd either take a couple weeks to get ready, or he'd miss games later on in the season because he is a little bit of a injury red flag. So whatever we can get Connor Williams for, even if he only plays like 12 games or something, that's a significant improvement over what I thought we were going to have, because you guys know I don't really believe in Laken Tomlinson, and there's a lot of other stuff going on in that interior offensive line that I don't know about. But yeah, this is going to be very interesting to monitor. I would love to have Connor Williams in here. Obviously, if he leaves town with no contract, the odds of us getting him go down, but continues to be worth monitoring. All right, that's the big one. That's the one I really wanted to talk about. Connor Williams' meeting went well, but there was some other stuff. Brady Henderson has some roster churn updates, and it's good news. The first thing is kind of neutral news. The Seahawks decided to release Tremaine Ankrum Jr. We signed him earlier in the offseason, and I think we all kind of understood that he was going to have an uphill battle to make the roster. He was on a very small contract, and it was an uphill battle for him, but because the interior of our offensive line was so weak, he had a better chance than he would have on most other teams. Well, he has not made it. He's been released. Maybe we try to bring him back onto the practice squad when this is all over, but we're giving him a full opportunity to audition with other teams. I don't know exactly how this is going to play, but Tremaine Ankrum Jr., formerly of the Rams, is gone. We have replaced him with Ilm Manning. Ilm Manning, I think is how you pronounce that. Another guard. So we basically swapped out one depth guard for another. Now, I don't have a ton to say about Ilm Manning. He was a Hawaii tackle, and obviously in the NFL, he's more of a guard. He's been on a few different teams in the NFL. He's been on the Niners. He's been on the Cardinals. He's been on the Niners again. He's been on the Panthers. He's never played a game. He has never played a game in the NFL, so we don't really have a lot to go on here. What I can say from his pre-draft combine, his testing, or excuse me, pro day, not combine, seems like an okay athlete, like not the worst. 5-second flat 40-yard dash. That's pretty workable. It's not great or anything. There's some stuff here that I'm not a big fan of for sure. The 3-cone's almost 8 seconds, but it's not bad. He's not a bad athlete. Maybe he'll fit in, but you have to get past that first barrier. And the first barrier is, can you play at a high level? And in the case of an Ilm Manning, who was undrafted, who has been on a few different teams already, who was on basically 4 teams last year, 3 teams, just the same team twice, just last season, it's unlikely. But sure. He's got an uphill battle to make the team, we'll put it to you that way, especially if we get Connor Williams. But the good news, the kind of big upshot here, is that Nehemiah Pritchett and D.J. James, our rookie corners from the draft, both have passed their physicals. So they are ready to go. They are ready to practice, ready to play, presumably. They were on the NFI last week. No longer. So we only have a few guys left on the NFI at this point, just a few. And it's great to hear that everything's pretty much cleared up before training camp even started. Big news here. Very, very happy about this, even though I don't expect these guys to play much. So it's crucial to get these reps, because if these guys aren't going to play a lot during the season, what they do in training camp, what they do in practice, what they do before the season starts in preseason matters a lot. So the fact that they're not going to miss any real time because of their non-football injuries is great. Great news here. So happy for both of them, even though I don't expect either guy to be a big impact player this year. It wouldn't shock me if neither guy played more than a handful of garbage time snaps. But they're going to be on the team, so better that they're healthy than that they're not healthy. And final little roster update, we signed another XFL player, Ty Scott, a wide receiver. So I'm going to say what I always say when we sign these low-level receivers that are, long shots. You got a lot of work to do if you're going to make the Seahawks wide receiver core, wide receiver room. It's a pretty stacked room. We know where most of the positions are going. We have some young guys that we're excited about too. So it's hard to make the team. Like Ty Scott, you're competing with a guy like Hayden Hatton, who is very intriguing, who I think is clearly in the catbird seat on getting a practice squad spot, if not the wide receiver 6 spot. You're competing with somebody like a Derek Young, maybe. You're competing with guys who have a decent amount going for them. So I wouldn't expect Ty Scott to necessarily make the team, but he had a successful workout, so good for him, and he's got a shot now. He's got a chance. And when you're in a position like Ty Scott coming out of the XFL, all you can ask for is a chance. So that's about it in terms of roster churn stuff. I'll come back with more training camp stuff probably tomorrow morning, maybe late tonight. But there was one other little tidbit. I don't want to make a whole video about this because it probably won't end up amounting to anything, but we did get something interesting from the Niners camp earlier today. Trent Williams is a holdout. Trent Williams wants something done with his contract. And by the way, this picture is terrible. I don't know if you can tell, but he's got a brown thing on his teeth. That's a terrible picture. They should definitely use a better picture here. Field goals. Come on, do better. But that's just nasty. But this would be a big one. The Brandon Ayuk stuff is big. This one, I mean, the difference is Trent Williams is at the end of his career. Ayuk is at the beginning of it. But short term, Trent Williams means so much to that team. He is maybe the best offensive lineman in football, and he's the only offensive lineman on that team that is really even above average. Or at the very least, good. Maybe there's one or two other guys on that team you could say are okay, but Trent Williams laps the field. And it's pretty much assumed that he is near the end of his career. He might only have 1 year left, so touching that contract is a risky proposition. So even if the Ayuk stuff seems like has passed over, Trent Williams thing may not be going away. So we'll see what goes on here with the Niners, but they're not having the cleanest of off seasons. Our off season's been a little bit cleaner. I think that's fair to say. So we'll monitor the situation here with Trent Williams. He's made a ton of money in this league. If he wanted to be a surprise last second retirement, he can certainly afford to do that, right? He's not going to be hurting for money because he had to give up a bunch of his contract because he retires before the season starts. So we'll see what happens here, but certainly big news. And just going to be sitting on pins and needles with this Connor Williams thing, hoping that we can find a way to make it work, because I'm telling you, the ceiling of this team, the ceiling of this offense changes significantly if you can add a really good interior offensive lineman, which Connor Williams has proven to be. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Probably another video in the morning about the training camp stuff, but exciting stuff happening.